So let's try at first for 15 minutes of public comment, and if that's not enough, we can extend it. I prefer not to go past 9:30 because that's 3.5-hour meeting is plenty long. So as I said before, I'm first going to call the people that were called earlier and chose to speak in public comment, and rather than specifically about the ordinance. So the first person would be Ben Manette.
Good evening. My name is Ben Manette, and I'm with Thrust Energy. It's a family-owned company. Between my father was the one who started the company. I'm just here to speak on behalf of my family. Kind of talk to you guys a little bit about the benefits that could come from us being out here in your area. First things first, the oil and gas industry contributes over $2 billion annually to the state in taxes and other revenue. Revenue support state operations such as the general fund and other beneficiaries, and capital outlay such as the severance tax bonding and general obligation bonding. The state general fund, in regards to the state general fund, 20% or $1.2 billion directly funded by oil is directly funded by oil and gas. Taxes on production and private land leases and royalties on state and federal lands as well. 10% or $600 million is indirectly funded by income from the permanent funds, which is one of the major things that we contribute to. The permanent fund equals up to $20 billion, up from $12 billion in 2009, third largest in the U.S. after Texas and Alaska, of course, and it's larger than Canada's. The oil and gas also funds a share of capital bonds. Next thing, job creation, another big issue here. As you all know, here in the state of New Mexico, we're one of the worst in the nation for unemployment and education. Naturally, if the industry is allowed to explore new areas for oil, there would be more jobs here in New Mexico. Currently the worst, as I said, currently we are the worst in the nation for unemployment. Lower investment in production creates fewer jobs through purchasing by companies and spending by workers. As it contributes to education, as stated earlier, under the economic development, the industry contributes over $2 billion annually in taxes. Since the oil and gas is producing industry supports 35.1% of the state general fund, the same percentage is the level of support by oil and gas industry that is attributable to public and higher education funding in the county. Lastly, I'd like to talk to you guys about the Land Grant Permanent Fund, which is also known as the Permanent School Fund. This is one of the largest funds of its kind in our country, the United States of America. And every year, it provides more than $500 million in benefits to New Mexico's public schools, universities, and other beneficiaries. Currently, $638 million as of fiscal year 2017. And these are just some of the benefits that we do have. And if we're allowed to come in here, all I can tell you guys is, look, let us at least try. Let us at least try and show you what the benefits are. Let us come out here, let us give it a shot, and that's all I really have to say.
Thank you. Let's see, I believe Michael Ward.
Seems like everybody has control of this microphone. So, I'm aiming to approach this from a different angle. My name is Michael Ward. I was born and raised in Sandoval County. I've been in this county my entire life. This county means everything to me. And with that being said, I'm still pro-petroleum. I'm a student at New Mexico Tech. In my 5th year, I've been studying petroleum for 5 years now. And I'm speaking today because I believe that it would be a benefit to bring this industry into our county. Personally, because of all of my experience, I actually went to New Mexico Tech intentionally to get this experience, to bring it back to this county so that I could know with my own hands, with my own experience, that I'm keeping my neighbors, my friends, my family, this land that means so much to me, that I know that with my own 2 hands I'm keeping it as safe as I possibly can. The problem with us sort of pushing the industry out or stonewalling it as often as we do is that people like me who actually legitimately care about my neighbors, my community, my environment, everything about this place, we're forced to go and work somewhere else. If I am unable to get a job in New Mexico, which is what the current, I guess, industry is heading towards, then I'll have to take all of my experience, all of the knowledge that I've gained over these past years, all of this care that I have for this county, I'll have to take it to another state and defend somebody else's home. And that's not what I want to do. That's not why I started going to school. So I think that it's often overlooked that there are local people who stand to benefit from this, and local people who are actively trying to fight for the local people by attaining the knowledge that not very many people have. Here in about 5 years, I would be one of those operators working in this county and doing everything within my power to ensure that all of these rules, all of these concerns that I've been hearing since I was a kid, really, are being upheld, that we are doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. And that's a promise that I can make, being somebody who was born and raised here, who knows every street, every back street, every county, every mountain, every hill. I am familiar with it. I care about it. I love it. And I believe that that gives me a unique opportunity within the petroleum industry to keep everybody safe. But the way that we are currently going, the current climate with my industry, is that people like me are being overlooked. We're not all big companies. We're not all trying to cut corners. Actually, there's a very, very small percentage of us that are, but it's giving us a bad name overall. So I feel it's important that people hear an opinion from somebody who legitimately and truly cares about the status of this county. And so that's, I guess that's all that I have to say today. That's why I'm here today.
Thank you. Linda Hayes. I guess so, because I don't see her. Okay. So I'll go back to the list. Let's see. Peg Froelich. Okay. I think it's Jaden Espinosa. Okay. Donner Dowell.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Aranjo, and
Get really close to the
Vice Chairman Trujillo, and Commissioners. I'd like to start by thanking Keith Brown and James Maduena for reaching out to us, the public, and I know others of you have also, but not our group, so thank you again. I'm going to talk about 3 topics. I'll be brief: economic impact, accountability, and liability. The best strategy for sustainable economic development is diversification, a pro-business approach that supports opportunity for all business development, not just oil and gas. Farming, tourism, recreation, clean energy. The reality is, more often than not, communities are negatively impacted by oil and gas production, leading to less diverse economy. You know, this is the boom and bust thing. We all know it. If oil and gas has been in New Mexico and Sandoval County for so long, why are we still at the bottom of every social list, every quality of life list, education, jobs? So they haven't done their part. If they've been around for so long and given us so much money, and where are we with that? Maybe we haven't been good stewards of that money. Maybe it's a lot more complicated, but they've had their chance. We need to shift away from oil and gas to the future, which is not oil and gas. Unchecked oil and gas production increases costs of road maintenance, public safety, health services, puts strain on emergency response and environmental monitoring and cleanup. and negatively affects property values, just to mention a few of the many negative local economic impacts of oil and gas production. This commission has heard from the industry. I think Dr. Romero and Dr. Fine, has presented to you twice now over the last 18 months. So tonight is not the first time you're hearing from the industry. The next thing I'm going to talk about is accountability. Care to be accountable. Do not abdicate your responsibility. Are you afraid of being anti-oil and gas? I'm trying to understand why you are afraid of adopting a comprehensive and balanced oil and gas ordinance. Why is the department and the commission making a place for oil and gas, namely OCD and industry advocates like Dr. Romero and Dr. Fine, to sit at the table, but not anyone else? I know that we've had public comment. That's great. I so appreciate that. And we have a voice, but we're not experts. We don't really know why the methane leaks out of the pipes. Industry can tell us because they're not allowed to use a certain kind of pipe, and then environmental groups can tell us that they're not willing to change their fittings. We don't know. We're not technicians. We're not lawyers. We need that kind of independent expert witness and testimony and consultation. We also all want to work with you. The tribes, the town of Bernalillo, the county residents, the independent technical and legal specialists. Not all of us are environmentalists. We're just like you. We're just people who want to live here and want to protect the environment that we work in, especially the water. Balanced oil and gas ordinance. A balanced ordinance keeps in check an industry that is known to pollute in excess. We cannot expect the industry to protect us. We expect that our lawmakers will protect our health, safety, and water. This is your mandate, your oath. Be accountable. And there's not a lot of I guess there's transparency, but there's not a lot of predictability in the whole process. For instance, tonight, if I had known that I needed to respond to Commissioner Stoddard's ordinance, I would have picked it apart and really tried to bring out my questions and my concerns, but I didn't know that was what we were expected of tonight. If I knew I had more than 3 minutes, I would have prepared a different kind of public comment. So just those kinds of things are helpful to the public to know ahead of time, especially when we're spending a lot of our time preparing for these meetings and reading the ordinances and all that. If there are 1,000 pages of OCD law and federal law and state law, why do we still have things going on like what's happening all over the country with fracking, with the devastation and the decimation of environments and the public's health at risk, asthma and cancer and pituitary tumors? These are all health effects that you guys really need to know about before you make it easier for the oil and gas to operate. We're not trying to tell them not to operate. We just want it to be safe. So I'm resubmitting. I think the work session is a good idea. Don't rush it. Invite people that are independent. I have a list of expert witnesses. This list was submitted in May of 2017, but no action has been taken by the commission to invite any of these consultants, which would move toward a serious, balanced discussion and an expert discussion. So I'll leave this with the department. As well, some of us have been intensely reviewing New Mexico local ordinances, and these are all from oil-producing counties. We have recommendations that have not been reviewed by the commission, and hopefully we'll have those ready for you by your before your September 5th workshop. I'm so happy to hear that you want to educate yourselves further, but this is a complicated industry with complicated risks and problems, and we want this to go as far as it can. Get all the information you need not just from OCD or the staff or from the industry, but from, as I say, independent experts. With all due respect, the Stoddard ordinance is lacking in accountability, and we do not want it to go through as is. That's why I'm submitting also a list of key elements to make for a durable ordinance. We're not trying to ban drilling or prevent development, but we do want our water protected. The third issue is liability. Avoid litigation by adopting an ordinance that clearly lays out what is expected of the applicant and the P&Z staff, and I think you've heard that over and over again tonight. Independent monitoring by the county, paid for by the industry, with county authority to invoke some kind of penalty. I don't know if it's a suspension of the permit. I found out tonight that that's really hard to do. Maybe it's a suspension for 30 days, or I don't know, but maybe that's something where we can work and have a little leverage. I think this is a legitimate reach of the county's jurisdiction and must be a cornerstone of our local oil and gas regulatory approach. How are we going to monitor? How are we going to sanction or deal with violations? You won't worry about the industry or the public suing the county if you take necessary rigor and time to develop an ordinance and hire legal counsel that specializes in land use, oil and gas, environmental law. These areas of law are specialized. They're outside of the county attorney's scope of practice, and he or she should not be engaged for legal counsel on oil and gas regulation. I'm a nurse. I would not try to take care of a problem that needs to go to a specialist for one of my patients. It would not be doing them any favors. So I'll leave. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. I'll leave these two handouts with your staff. And
Mr. Chairman, have you asked, you said you brought that list of special people
Yes.
to testify in May. Have you reached out, has your group reached out to ask them if they would come to any of these meetings that we've had all this time?
you know, this would be more appropriate for you to invite them to come and present. We can't ask them to come because we don't know what, are they gonna get 3 minutes, or are they gonna be allowed to talk? It would be better for you to decide on, someone you want to come and speak to you, and, then invite the public would be great too, but primarily
I was just curious why you hadn't invited them to come and speak on
That's
your
right, we
behalf.
can't ask someone to come, these are academics and for 3-minute time.
Well, you could have worked with the commission to put
Oh.
on an agenda and did something.
Yeah, well, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, that's definitely, we can
I'm
facilitate.
just wondering why you hadn't done it in the past, that's all, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we're
Okay,
happy
thank
to
you.
do it in the future.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, there's one more person on the list, and then we'll put it off. So, it looks like Brenda must be Sunfield, maybe? I guess, I can't read field. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this time to give you my perspective on what's going on right now. I come from a faith-based perspective. I am Presbyterian, and for me, stewardship of the land, of the water, of the air is everything. God gave us this to protect, not abuse, but protect. We can use it, but not to the extent where we use it where people are suffering. I want to present to you Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles. If you go on the website, you will see there's 980 chemicals that they use to pump into their wells. They cause endocrine system degradation, brain, nervous system, immune, cardiac, respiratory, kidney failure, cancer, and skin problems. They're all documented. There is hundreds of documented cases. I think this is something that you should look at before you make decisions. I think responsibility and risk management is part of your position that you're on, that you're doing. I think a risk management is important. I know we're on seismic fault lines. I know we have a super volcano down the road, Hamas, super volcano. That way? Okay, that way. So, you know, we have things that happen here that don't happen in Farmington or down in the Carlsbad area. So I think that is something that needs to be in the ordinance. There should be something to do with seismic testing of the area. Can we even put pressurized water back into the system and not cause a volcanic eruption or an earthquake? We haven't mentioned earthquakes. We're on fault lines. We have earthquakes all the time. What are we going to be doing then when we're doing this kind of testing and digging and welling or wells? So those are the things that I'm concerned about. Also, policing. I don't think any company, any business can police itself. So I believe in having independent testing done, and water especially. So you get your baseline water and your air quality assessments done in the areas that you're going to be drilling. I think the companies should pay for it. That shouldn't be something we cover. That should be something where they cover it. They get an independent to cover it. Then they have that independent doing the testing of those areas on a yearly basis, and they bring that information back to you as to where they are. And also, I know it's proprietary, but I believe they need to give us the chemicals that they're using, because there's 980, and you don't want to spend 900, well, maybe they won't want to. Spend 980, testing things that they don't know. So the companies should give you those types of chemicals that they're using, and then you should be testing those in the water. Because you're not going to find them in the water if you don't test for the right things. So you have to test for the particular chemicals that they're using. That is key. That is stewardship. Okay? Thank you.
It's about 9:30 and we've reached the end of one of the lists. I suggest that we stop the meeting now, but if anyone wants to continue, that's fine with me.
I'm fine with that. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay?
I'll second that motion.
One more. Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I just have a question.
Sure.
For those of us who didn't get a chance to comment and did have specific concerns with the proposal, is there a way for us to submit our additional
Oh
concerns?
yeah, there's always a way. You can send an email, there's a website that you can talk to the staff. I've never done it. I get them all sent to me, but I've never sent anything.
Yeah.
But there is an easy way of submitting written testimony, any supporting documents, anything you want to do.
Okay, because I couldn't find it on the website, and I would like an opportunity to submit since.
We're able to receive emails. We all have individual email accounts, so you can send it to us. Absolutely.
Okay, so all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
if you got to do that again on Tuesday,
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Where do I find that submission? Oh, sorry.
no, but I'm just saying,